Hello, everyone. Here we are, another guest. This is the evening session of the Global Empowerment Summit, the third Global Empowerment Summit, the fourth weekend, and I'm opening the evening with Sharad Agarwal. Hi, Sharad. How are you today?
Hi, Andrea. I love the promo reel that you played just now and so many familiar faces.
Yes, I have
Yeah,
a lot of meta shapers who joined us, and you will tell me about this community more. And I wanted to play the video, especially because of this, so that you see your community working together on empowering others. Thank you so much, Sharad, for being here today.
sure. Happy to be here.
So, today we have an amazing conversation, an exciting topic, and we are dedicating the whole weekend to digital transformation, which is something very important. And we are both working on it so that we are spreading awareness, so that more people know about the new technologies and the opportunities that are coming with it. So, Sharad, as a starter, please introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. So, my name is Sharad Agarwal. I'm based in Dubai, though today I'm coming in from New Delhi. I've been in Dubai for 32 years, so it's home for me. And my journey into the digital transformation space started in 1996 when I started the first digital agency in the Middle East region. It's called Cyber Gear. And there's a funny story around it, because when I started my company, Cyber Gear, the Dubai Economic Department issued me an automobile trade license because I had gear in my company name. And they didn't understand internet back then, and I kept arguing with them. But yeah, it's funny. We've been in this space for really long. So I'm basically a web 1 guy. We keep talking of web 3, I guess 10 times a day. But I've seen it all evolve, and so we transitioned into web 2, I guess, in early 2000, and then last year we pivoted totally to web 3. So now Cybergear is a Web3 agency that is helping brands globally to transition from Web 2 to Web 3. We are no experts, I would say, because we are all learning together. But we are leaders in that we got into it early. And clearly, this is the future, and we are happy to be in this space.
And you have an amazing experience, and people, guys, you will see that Sharad is everywhere. He's traveling the whole world and bringing everyone together, and that's why we are getting along so well because we are in the similar business, making people connecting people all around the globe. So, Sharad, let's get closer to the topic of today that we have around 20 minutes, 25 minutes to talk about, which is your presence in the community building and your presence in digital transformation and your presence in raising awareness about these things happening right now all
Sure.
around the world around Web3. So where do we start? Let's explain what is Meta Shapers first.
Yeah, I'll explain Meta Shapers, but just before I do that, I want to, highlight the fact that for me, it's 1996 all over again, because back then I had a PowerPoint presentation, and the title of that was Top 10 Reasons Why You Should Have a Website. Back then, it made a lot of sense. Today, of course, it sounds like everybody has a website. But initially, we had to educate the market, and it took us 6 months to 1 year uh, to make people realize, including senior leaders, at that time, why they should have a web presence, why they should share information online, why they should start selling online, why should they move all their services online. So it took us almost a year before we became, commercially viable. And now in 2022, we are basically doing the same thing. Now my PowerPoint presentation says top 10 reasons why you should be in the metaverse. So it's deja vu, it's all over again, and I feel totally at home, relaxed. I'm not bothered about what I read. Sometimes, you read in articles, people are writing the obituary for the metaverse even before it's started. People are saying NFT sales are down 90%, no traffic, no traction in the metaverse, crypto winter, etc., etc. The big story, based on my experience as a takeaway for your audiences, uh, read everything that you see, but you don't necessarily have to believe everything that you read, and that's very important. You have to have your own takeaways. You have to use your own common sense, your own knowledge. Basically, I would say follow technology, and you can't go wrong. I've been doing that for last 26 years. And in 2007 8, I remember there was the dot com bust. People were saying internet will not succeed. But hello, today, if I take away your internet even for a minute, you will have withdrawal symptoms, right? So you can't live without WhatsApp, you can't live without email. And so it'll be going forward about the metaverse and Web3 technologies as well. We won't be able to live without them. We will be so used to the 3D immersive experiences, which don't exist yet. They are beginning to happen. But in my opinion, this is an eventuality. Every country will move at their own speed, some faster than others. Some people will take quick decisions faster than some others who like to deliberate and don't like to be the first movers. But my sincere advice to at least all those who are listening to your show is, be a leader, not a follower. And even if you fail, it's okay. There'll be learnings. You'll know what to do second time around. So yeah, so you need to start by reading up, understanding the jargon that is associated in this field. And it's not complicated, it's not rocket science. Let me reassure every person who's listening today. It's just a matter of making the effort. You can even go to our website, cyber-gear.io, and download for free some amazing glossaries that our team have put together. You can understand all the Web3 terms which are documented. You can understand blockchain, you can understand tokenization, DAOs. So we have demystified all the jargon in layman terms so people can get familiar and confident. So they are not scared. They should not think blockchain is coding, blockchain is technical, blockchain is not for me. No, blockchain is for everybody. And it's not about the technology, it's about the mindset. So leaders have to adopt the new mindset of Web3, which is collaboration, not competition. And if they start doing that, everything falls in place. Now, coming back to your question about the community, about MetaShapers. So, what was my motivation to start MetaShapers? Let me think. I was convinced towards beginning of this year that community is one of the pillars of Web3 going forward. And I came to that conclusion because I realized that even if you build a very fancy presence, in the metaverse and you don't have people, you're not going to succeed, because end of the day, you have to sell to real people, right? They have to exist. You have to have them as part of your ecosystem. So I thought, instead of starting to build something big in the metaverse, let me reverse engineer. Let me start by building a community first. And once I've got the community, then I can offer them any product, any service, right? Because they will know me, they will trust me, and they would, by and large, listen to my professional advice. So that's what I'm doing. Not only MetaShapers, I'm also building some other communities like the one we are doing at onlywebinars.com, which is a series of webinars I started when COVID happened 2 years back. We've done more than 60 webinars. We have now north of 16,000 people from more than 160 countries across the globe. And just to put some reference on this, the first webinar I remember that I did in like 2 years back, we had 25 people in the room from, I think, just 3 or 4 neighboring Gulf countries. And one of the recent webinars, we had 1,200 plus people from 70 plus countries. So you can see the traction, the growth, and also shows the appetite that people have for new technologies. So clearly, people come first, and you need to invest in community building. And you know it, Andrea, it's not easy to build a community. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, energy. It teaches you patience, perseverance, and you have to be at it all the time. So you got to nourish your community with good ideas, with good content, and above all, you have to be a role model. Otherwise, people will not listen to you. They will go away. Competition is only a click away, right? So yeah. So uh, I do recommend that people be part of some community, have a feeling of belongingness, and you learn a lot from each other. So the best part about Meta Shapers is it's not a huge community. We are probably less than 300 people, but the 50 that are connected with me on WhatsApp, as you know, Andrea, you're one of them. We just love each other. We probably have not met. I've probably met most of them now over the last 1 year in real life.
They are on my bucket list, so
Yeah.
next year.
But even like if I haven't met you in real life, I feel very close to you through our activities, through our messaging, through our sharing. And that's one of the criteria when I select people to be part of Metashapers. They don't have to be rich, they don't have to be powerful, they just have to be nice. And that's such a simple and easy criteria, right?
That reminds me that I only work with heart-centered people because
Yeah.
I just love heart-centered people. It makes life so much easier. The truth
100%. I
being.
agree with you. And that's one of my favorite learnings, that if you deal with warm hearted people, then you can't go wrong.
So true. And next to all this community building and doing the work that you do around awareness, you are also doing many other things to be informed yourself and to get connected and to make sure that your brand is built very well. And I think in digital world, it's a bit hard for people to get in first. So what would you advise for people who are just looking at it from the outside but would like to meet more people who are already in this circle and have the knowledge so that they don't feel ashamed that, okay, I'm just a
Yeah.
starting person, I don't know
Sure.
anything about this?
Yeah. So that's a good question. And my advice is very simple. Don't just be a spectator, play the game, which means you have to get into it, dabble in it, and start putting in long hours. Obviously, you probably know I put in 14, 16 hours of work on the average, almost 6 days a week. I just take Sundays as a rest day to detox and to
Recharge.
recharge. But I'm always thinking, how can I add value to my community? How can I create some good content? How can I create events? How can I empower people? How can I, help them network with other people so they can take their idea to market quickly? Basically, I'm looking for people who want to change the world. Okay, it sounds very like a very big idea, but I have started believing that one person can change the world. And I say that based on experience because when I came to Dubai 32 years back, it was nothing. It was a village. Nobody knew of Dubai. Nobody cared for Dubai. And Dubai was like a small dot on the planet. But today, let me tell you, it is one of the fastest growing cities on the planet, not only in our space, in crypto or in metaverse sense. You look at anything, you look at sporting events, you look at the way the infrastructure, the technology. I mean, people are thinking of getting 5G across the country. Dubai is thinking of 6G. So we are ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. And one man has made this happen, which is the ruler of Dubai, right? There are not 1,000 people who have got this vision. It's his vision, and he built a good team around it, and he's made it happen. So we have to start believing that we can change the world. We can make a difference. And it doesn't take 10 people to create something. Magic happens when you start believing that you have the big idea. And of course, it's about implementing. Ideas on their own do not germinate. You have to take the responsibility to make it happen. And then other people will follow you, they will join you. And so a movement will start. And Metashapers, in my opinion, is that dream of mine where we will not create just one or two leaders. I believe more than 90% of the people that we have in Metashapers can change the world in more ways than one. It could be in terms of keeping people safe in the metaverse. It could be getting rid of hackers in the space. It could be solving interoperability problems which exist in the metaverse, whatever. So you need people who think out of the box, people who believe in the power of X or 10X, whatever you call it. And onus is on the leaders to instill that confidence in their community members. And so I think of that all the time, 24 by 7. And to make it happen, like you were saying, I have to read up a lot myself. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I have a lot of people I love to follow, uh, and especially on LinkedIn, where you see I'm very active. I can only post stuff if I read stuff, right? I can't post without reading. So I have to know what's happening in the world. I have to have my own opinion on that and be able to comment, so it makes sense. And watch webinars. Instead of watching Netflix, I watch webinars. So you might call me a nerd, but I get a lot of knowledge from there. And interacting with people in real life, attending events. You have to make that effort. You can't just sit behind a camera and do Zoom meetings all day. That's one way of living life. The other is to buy a ticket, get on the plane, put the long hours, right? Deal with the jet lag, deal with the time difference, deal with language and cultural barriers, and show up. A lot of people are very inactive in communities. I mean, they are there in the community, but I call them consumers. You have to become a producer. So don't just be a consumer of content, become a producer of content. That's my tip, to be having accelerated learning in the space.
Yeah, many people say that you have to teach it to understand it more and to learn more, because once you got to the teaching and you are writing about it, that's what I said just like before the first break that I had, that once you write that comment into the comment field and you activated your brain to engage with what you hear, it will trigger another thought process. And then after, it will create a change in your own life, because whether you want it or not, you already have the thought in your mind. So it will actually trigger some change in your actual life too.
Yeah,
And
actually, in
this is the
Web3,
good thing.
yeah, you're right. In Web3, there's a saying that conversation is the new lead. When you start a conversation, you're on to something. So people should not be shy. They should be confident. They should take the lead. I know many people who are just kind of, I don't know, shy about commenting on posts. They'll just like it, or they'll put a smiley face, but they'll never write a comment. I don't know if you came across such people, but I know a few. And I think, like I said, conversation is the new lead. So start conversations, be part of them, and engage, because engagement is key in Web3. And collaborate. Collaboration means if you don't own a community, you can join one that is already successful. And there's a good example of how Tiffany did not have a community of their own, a strong brand, but no community. So they leveraged the CryptoPunks community and launched a pendant with their design, and sold it in minutes and made millions. So, what a great example of leveraging something you don't have with another partner who has. This is a classic case of collaboration, and no one person knows everything. So you need to collaborate with people who have the expertise that you don't have. And then I say it all the time, 2 and 2 is not 5 in terms of Web2 synergy. 2 and 2 is 22. So that's the exponential power of Web3. So collaborate, and then you can flourish. And earlier days, we used to say, together we rise. Now I say, together we thrive.
Together we thrive, exactly, and leverage on the tools also, because maybe like Jamie is coming after you, and we will talk about his company and what he's doing. He's supporting us and giving us the networking rooms for this summit this year. And it's also this thing that when you have the tool and you empower people like he's doing by empowering social enterprises, it's something that is really making it happen for other people too, because with having the access and showing up in that community or that platform, it will also empower other people who are entering that platform. So it's a very accelerative process that it's starting, just because, like you said, one person is starting a collaboration and not saying no, I will not provide it to you, but saying yes. And it's all about saying yes until it's
Yeah.
happening.
And of course, Jamie, I'm a big fan of his. And even though I might not be on that, listening to that show, but say my hi to him. And he's probably the only guy I met 5 times in London this past week.
A lot of time together. But what's next for you? What are the things that you are up to in the next I don't know, you have a lot of plans, a lot of traveling, a lot of programs coming up. So what are
Yeah.
those?
So a lot of exciting things are happening in my life. Recently, I've been appointed as a custodian to a large fund that is being launched from Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's a fund to help jumpstart the Web3 ecosystem. So we'll be reviewing a lot of startups in this space and helping to scale them. So we'll be providing funding. Initially, we have $15 million as part of the fund, which will be topped up to 100 million. So this is serious money for seriously good people. So that's a new role, a new hat that I'm wearing. I take that as an opportunity again to make a difference, in terms of helping youngsters. And you know how much I believe in the Gen Z, to the extent that my next webinar on 15th December is about Gen Z and the metaverse. And I have to give a shout out to actually a couple of people who are 20 something. And 10 days back, I met a guy called Alistair Pernigo in NFT London. He is 21 and he calls himself a futurist. Futurist at 21. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And he is, mark my words, this young lad is going to change the world. He's developed a metaverse of senses. So, based on smell, he can diagnose anything, even the human body. So, if there's something wrong with your liver or your kidney, then through the smell of that organ, doctors can predict what is possibly wrong in your human body. He's already done the POC, proof of concept. He showed it to me. It works. And I guess they need funding to go to the next level. And I'm waiting for his pitch deck, which should arrive in my inbox very soon. I'm looking for these kind of youngsters who, at this age, are very mature and they want to make a difference. They just don't want to only make money. They will make money because they're smart, but their bigger picture is to create something which is more than a legacy. It's about empowering others. It's about making a difference. So he is going to be on our panel, and possibly we have two others. There's Leila Hurstel, who's confirmed. She has launched Worse Estate, which is a real estate metaverse, which is quite successful. They had their NFT launch and did well. She also runs All Stars Women community, which is huge in all continents, and she's only 21. So I'm very inspired by these youngsters who have their head on their shoulders. They are mature beyond their years, and they have the energy, and they work very hard. They put in long hours. It's not that they are taking life easy and partying. I mean, they are working seriously. And whenever I feel I have knowledge deficit, these are my go-to players. I don't go to the 50-year-olds and say, educate me. I go to the 20-year-olds and say, please educate me. So that's a trick right there. That's a secret. That's the secret sauce, the Gen Z. Adopt a Gen Z and you'll become wise.
Yeah, actually, understanding them, it's they are becoming the biggest customer base and the biggest audience out there. So that's very important to talk the language, as you say, to spend some time with them, to understand how they are thinking, and they are just so amazing. I mean, every time I meet someone like that, yeah, it's just great to listen to them. It's always inspiring, and they have great ideas because, as you said, they have been growing up in this new environment, and it's in their genes already to think like
And the
digital.
crazy thing, Andrea, is that I guess because of my age and the time I've spent in this space, they think I'm their mentor. But the real secret is that I learn a lot from them. So I wonder
Yes,
who's the mentor.
so true, so true. I think it's always true to go back to the youngsters, to the ones that are in the given generation that we are living in. It's always more inspiring because when we are thinking first with our own generation's head, and once you can switch heads and get into the new generation, then you can generate and collaborate and co-create ideas between the two, which is magical. I think that's where the power is living, in the diversity of thoughts.
Sure.
Amazing, Sharat. So a lot of things are happening for you. I'm very happy for your success, and you are working very hard for it. So you deserve a little bit of rest and chilling and just spending some time. And I also want to ask you, like, how do you switch off? Because all this digital, it's really taking you to be in front of the
Yeah.
camera all the time and to be in those Zoom rooms and to show up. So how do you switch off?
Yeah, that's a good point you raise because when COVID happened, all of us were confined to living and working from home, and that has had a lot of adverse effects on the mindset of people, and a lot of people are now suffering because of that. And In any case, in this industry, the metaverse, Web3, it's a non-stop thing, 24 by 7 new stuff is happening every day. So I think it's very, very important for us to consciously switch off, and I do that largely on weekends. So not many people know that I'm an avid golfer. So I spend 4 hours every weekend, rain or shine, with my friends without a mobile phone, just out with nature. And for me, that's a good detox where you can re-energize. Other than that, I want to point people to the direction of a amazing study that's been done by Ariana Huffington of Huffington Post fame. She now runs a company called Thrive. I do recommend
Yes.
all your listeners to visit her website called Thrive. And she recently did a study where she took a few people and put them in a room, and they were just surfing the internet for like 8-10 hours a day. And one of the results of the study, based on heat maps, etc., that she generated, is that basically all this technology is creating radiation which is frying our brains. Those are the terms in her report. Our brains are getting fried. Okay, we don't know it, we don't realize it, but in time it will be proven. So we should not leave our mobile phone on our bedside and let it charge all night. That radiation is a silent killer. So we need to be aware of things like this. We need to take breaks almost every hour or every 2 hours, not keep sitting like on a couch potato, right? You have to move around. You have to stop looking at the screen nonstop from one meeting to another. And it's extremely important for all of us to take those breaks so that we can assimilate what we are, learning in front of a computer. Because if we do it nonstop, like I said, our brains will get fried. So we all need to figure out what works for us. Detox your brain. re-energize, spend time in nature. Sounds very simple to do, but we need to implement that. And just make, spend more time in real life. So I call it URL to IRL, right? So we need to transition. Yeah, we need to transition from URL to IRL.
Love that. Let it be the closing sentence. Go for IRL, guys.
Yeah,
Many
absolutely.
IRL times with your family, with your friends, and make sure that you're taking breaks. I let Sharad go to his family and enjoy the time off with them and
Yes.
to recharge. And thank you so much for today's interview. We will see you more. If you want to reach Sharad, please go to LinkedIn. That's where he's the most active, and you will see about the webinars that he's doing, all the posts and all the things that the glossaries that I shared with my community. So yeah, follow Sharad. And thank you so much, Sharad, for being part of the Empowerment Summit.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea, and I applaud you for what you're doing. I follow you quite regularly and look forward to more sessions in the future. And also, I want to thank your audience for tuning in. Please do share this content with your family, with your friends. We want wider reach. We want people to be aware and knowledgeable of both the pluses and the minuses that come with the technology. And then we will be truly empowered. So thank you, Andrea, for this opportunity. All the best. See you on the other side. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye, Sharad. Bye.
Bye.
Switching speakers in the studio, and Jamie is already here, eagerly waiting to come up. Jamie is also part of the Meta Shapers, so I can leave the banner a little bit there, and then I will remove it and bring up his banner. Hi, Jamie. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Everything is all right.
That's what I like to hear. Fantastic. Yeah, lovely to meet you today, and have the opportunity to have a bit of a chat for the Global Empowerment Summit. Very exciting.
Yes, so nice to have you here. And some of the people who are in the room actually, or who are watching us, they already tried your space that you created for us, which is so exciting. And I'm so happy to have you here in the studio. But before we jump into that conversation, I just would like you to introduce yourself a little bit. So who is Jamie and what's your purpose?
Sure. Well, big questions. What way to start? So I would say, well, first of all, I am a social entrepreneur, a workshop facilitator, a metaverse architect, and a digital economic justice campaigner. So there's a few different kind of facets to that. One of them is I've done training throughout the whole of my career. So I started off as a youth worker, supporting young people from marginalized communities into employment, education, and training. And that's really where I started off. I was actually supported by the charity before that. So it was really a case of believing a lot in what the cause was, because I was one of the beneficiaries of that support. So I went into training and decided to set my first business the week before the pandemic struck, which is obviously the best time to go self-employed. You can imagine my fortune at thinking, great, training, that's going to be something people are really going to want at the beginning of the pandemic. So I started basically taking that time to learn how to use different tools that I could use to facilitate training in the future. And one of them was virtual reality, and it's kind of getting on board with how that worked, how could I use it as a training tool? And then that kind of evolved into, well, some of the value here is not just about the learning content, but how can I adapt the environment to suit the learning content better? And that might be because I've got a neurodivergent learner. So let's say I'm designing a space for someone who's autistic. I could design something that has muted colors, that isn't too overwhelming, that isn't too stimulating. On the flip side of that, if I'm talking the ADHD side of the spectrum, I might bring up the colors. I might make sure there's loads of moving parts in order to keep attention. And that's just aside from the actual learning content that's being delivered. So part of wanting to be able to use virtual reality as a tool for inclusion was a big kind of motivator, and that turned into developing metaverse spaces, which people. So we designed virtual reality conferences and events, and then that turned into metaverse conferences and events. Before then, looking at the infrastructure behind the metaverse and that interoperability that Sharad was talking about, and setting up Distributed Republic, which is aimed at really getting that Web3 and metaverse knowledge and insights to communities who don't normally have access to it, because progress where it's always the same people benefiting isn't progress at all. And that's my big fear with Web3 and how things develop at the moment, is we're not thinking about how those who are marginalized because of centralized structures could participate through decentralized structures and decentralized technology. And that's kind of the aim of what I'm hoping for.
And this is something that we are so aligned with, because at the Hub, we are fighting for the same thing, to help people to access things that normally people cannot do, like high-ticket coaches, like technology, like personal growth training. So these are the things that I believe it's already possible to marginalize, to give it to people. But it's somehow missing, because the technology is coming, the big companies are coming, but they are missing the education part. Somehow they don't do that. So we have to step in, like you and me, to do that and to give our time to empower others. And it's a great thing what you are doing. So first of all, I just salute you and thank you so much for supporting also the Empowerment Hub. And it means a lot for us. We had so much fun in this space that you are created for us. You are dancing. And if the audience don't know, we were trying out a metaverse space that Jamie was preparing for us in an application, and we were going there and networking there and jumping around and trying it out. And many people told me that, well, Andrea, thank you for your patience, because first time when I entered this space, I left because I got so frustrated.
It's but that's the learning curve that's not there. Well, sorry, the learning curve that's there at the moment is people are like, right, can we use this technology? And actually, the first learning curve you have to take someone in is getting used to that technology, particularly when it comes to VR as well. I've delivered training sessions where I've utilized VR as certain sections of the training session, but it's all been in person. And you realize that there's the learning curve for the technology, then there's the getting people to understand the concept, and then you've got them actually learning the learning content. So lots of learning journeys to be taken on. And it does, a lot of the reasons that I like events, that I put on one this week, which was just a networking event, where it didn't have any agenda or anything lined up, was to just give people that opportunity to play and explore, rather than them trying to get to terms with using a piece of software straight away and being able to engage with it in all the different aspects.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, that sometimes we take it too seriously. I think technology, coaching, development, education in general, when we take it too seriously, it becomes a bit more, not appealing, or it's a stopper for some people. So it's great just to be there, just to jump around, just to dance around, just to experiment. And then later on, when you want to learn more, you can, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I started off with was developing a STEM strategy, so science, technology, engineering, and maths, for marginalized communities across the UK, for the UK's largest youth charity. And one of the things that I used to coin as a term that I think is really important is STEM by stealth. Okay, if you tell someone they're doing science or technology, particularly if those have been some of the barriers that they might have had in school, or they already have a negative perception towards that, the first thing they do is tense up, and it creates that fight or flight kind of response already just by hearing the subject name. So what you need to do is find different ways of being able to weave it in, where people don't necessarily immediately go, I'm doing this, I'm doing maths, I'm doing technology. So we did things like a little drone session on how to be able to, look at aerodynamics and stuff like that. But the whole purpose of it wasn't to go, you are doing STEM, but hey, this is just a cool activity. It just happens to involve a bit of science and technology.
I think that's what happens with kids, right? I mean, when you are a kid, you are just exploring. So when you see a little airplane or a little drone or something, you just want to know how it works. You just want to get closer. And that's actually opening the door for a lady or for a little girl to get into STEM. And then it's all inspiring other people to join in. I just love to watch this, what happened in the last few years, that people started to fight for women's rights in a way. And then it's opened up. It's not only women now, it's everyone. Like, the access should be for everyone. And it's just very nice to see.
Yeah, sorry, go for it.
No, it's just that accessibility is what you were talking about also.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot around, even when we're looking at inclusion at the moment, and I suppose my criticism of how we're doing at the moment is quite a lot of people see inclusion as accessibility as supporting people like them, and it can become very middle class and very white very quickly. And actually, there's a lot when we're looking at marginalized communities, we're talking about care leavers, we're talking about people who have faced great adversity to be able to get their hidden disability. These kind of factors have a huge impact on people. But inclusion, from a lot of people's mindset, is people that look, sound, and feel like myself, and I want to be able to help them. And we have to really start to consider more, particularly within the Web3 movement, that intersectional nature, because I think at the moment we're far too narrow-minded in the way that we look at inclusion.
I think it's the thing that I'm a dancer since I was 6, and I'm always telling to everyone, when you see human or when you see another person, you don't see, we dancers, we don't see female, male, or anything else. We don't see races, we don't see skin color. We just see someone who we want to connect with. And I would just love to see it in the world, that it would be not like, okay, you are this box and you are here and you are excluded because you are in this box. Because once I start to build that box, I am the one segregating people by building that box. And if I'm just leaving it open and no box, and I think Web3 and then the metaverse that you are creating and all of you are creating, it's an amazing opportunity, because you can be anyone, you can be whoever you want to be. And at the end, we will not really know who is who and what is what. So it's just disappearing. The whole thing about putting people into boxes is disappearing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nuanced bit as well, because sometimes those labels help us support people and target some communities that need support as well. So it's never a case of going, well, we can be reductive enough to say that they don't exist. But what we do want to obviously go for is a sense of equity across everybody, no matter what defining characteristics they have. And kind of going to your point on feeling the need to be able to hide it. Like people, there's a CIPD statistic, which is people that feel that they have to hide characteristics that are intrinsic to themselves spend up to 30% of their mental energy doing that at any given time. And you can imagine the exhaustion that takes from that masking, that having to feel that you need to fit into, be it because you need to fit into a white narrative, or be it because you need to fit into your neurodivergent and you need to mask as neurotypical. It creates a huge energy drain on those people constantly having to kind of hide. And yes, the metaverse and how we participate, it's going to lead to some really interesting aspects of identity as well, because you're right, we could show up exactly however we want to be able to show up in the world. So you've got the pros of that as being able to represent yourself in a digital world however you would like to be represented. You've also got the flip side of that, which I can give examples of artificially generated Instagram models who are, very African, black, and they're being run by an account that's a white German guy, and he's profiteering from this modeling. So you've got this sense of identity where you can go, well, I can be anyone that I want. And then it's a case of, well, we need to work on the nuance of what that actually means for us, because there's also going to be a degree of, young people that going into the metaverse where they can feel they can represent themselves however they want in that digital space, but then they come out into a real space and that's no longer the case anymore. And what does that do for someone's sense of identity? And we've seen it a lot with Web2 development, like how
we already with Instagram accounts or social media, right?
Yeah, 100%. And so we've had that a little bit of an insight. And one of the things I always say is that when we introduced Web2, we didn't think that it would have the ability to erode the ability of our democracies to function. Like, that wasn't our insight when they thought, oh, people will be able to upload pictures online. Won't it be great to be able to share content? And we have to start thinking about the same things that underpin the metaverse and Web3, which is how can we look at those unintended consequences and what can we do to support or to mitigate some of those potential harmful effects as well.
And I think that's something that we touched already last week, and this weekend also we are coming back to it. It's the mental health, right? That mental health issues can come and accelerate all in this different environments, because people are actually spending a lot of time online, and there's a lot of side effects of this also. But I think it's not just the negative, it's not just the positive. There is everything, like, it can go wrong if the leader is wrong, but it can go very, very good if the leaders are using it for good. Mm-hmm. So again, we are coming back to humanity and the person who is behind it. And I know that you are using it for very good, and I would love to hear more about that. What are the different projects that you are in, and some crazy ideas. Like I saw last time your VR business card, and it's just nice to have these kind of examples so that the people can grasp where is technology at today, so that they can understand.
Sure. I'll start off with more of the Web3 stuff. So at the moment, a lot of what I'm delivering is workshops on Web3 on how basically marginalized communities can leverage it to participate, because a lot of people are marginalized because of centralized institutions. So what I would like to be able to kind of do is go, well, how can we make sure that this technology, this decentralized technology that changes the way that we can participate, can be beneficial to groups that wouldn't normally have access to it. So I deliver workshops for young people who face a lot of disadvantage. I've done it with university students, and it's more a case of just getting them aware of this changing world, because it's not really just Web3 and the metaverse. We're talking about the future of the internet and e-commerce, and that's why it's a big thing. Like if you've got a negative reaction to Web3 or anything like that, just think about it as the future of e-commerce. I think there was a question there around what Web3 is.
Yeah, many people are actually asking, and a lot of people are mixing it up like with metaverse and everything. So maybe we can just clear that first.
Sure, not a problem. So Web3 is essentially the technologies that come out from blockchain. So blockchain is essentially a decentralized database, and our whole society runs on databases and ledgers. Okay, so everything that we've ever engaged with, the likelihood is it's a ledger along the way. Be that your passport, that's linked to a passport authority. Be it that your bank account, that's linked to another database, and all of these databases are sharing information and drawing from each other. But up until this point, your tax system, your council tax, whatever it is, has all been linked by these centralized databases. Now, what's happening with the invention of blockchain is essentially having a secure way to create a decentralized database. And that has huge reaching implications. So we've seen that cryptocurrency is one of the things that's been able to come out of that. Because we can decentralize our currency and our banking system, we can realistically, decentralized technology just allows us to cut out the middleman. So for example, if we were looking in 2015, we would say the biggest companies were organizations like Uber, who didn't own any cab companies, Airbnb, that didn't own any property. Like the middleman was the people that was making the money in Web2. Facebook is a good example. It's a content platform that doesn't create any content. All of these things are essentially making money from connecting one person to another person. With decentralized technology, what we can essentially do is cut that person out and connect you directly with a person. So if we had an Uber model that was based on a blockchain bit where we wanted to connect people to drivers, well, we could use a blockchain database to go, well, here's the person who wants the cab, here's the cab driver. We don't actually have to go through Uber anymore to be able to make that work. I can connect you directly with the cab driver, and it can all have verification, identity, whatever you want to be able to do from a credentials perspective. And that means that you're going to spend less and the cab driver is going to make more. So Web3 is essentially how do we build these structures? And you've already seen things like cryptocurrency has disrupted the banking sector. NFTs and smart contracts will impact the legal sector because essentially they are automated legal contracts. And then one would say, well, the next thing is how do we do a governance perspective from it? Does that impact government? Because we could use decentralized structures and create what is a distributed republic, which is what I named one of my businesses. And the second part of your question was, well, the metaverse. So there's lots of different concepts in the metaverse. It's quite a conceptual space at the moment, but essentially it's like the 3D envisioning of the internet. And when I look at that, I would say there's different versions of what that looks like. Facebook, Meta wants to create a centralized version of the metaverse where essentially they own that metaverse. There's lots of people like myself that are interested in an open metaverse. So one that's community owned, community governed, interoperable, and basically puts you at the heart of the data and contributions that you'll be able to put into it. And so, yeah, it's essentially being how do we interact in a digital world in a way that's similar to our space. So if I'm going in a virtual shop, I don't want to just be able to look at the pictures of the JPEG that someone's took. I want to be able to walk around the store. I want to be able to pick that up. I want to be able to stretch it. I want to be able to turn it around. I want to be able to do everything that I could do in a physical store. And it's really that kind of erosion between our virtual and material worlds.
So I like it's like kind of like Web3 is the infrastructure, right? That we are understanding it. Like before it was the open source programming that was like
Yeah.
people started to share it for free and everyone could access all those programs which was open source program. And then Web3 is kind of the same with the blockchain behind it. And then Metaverse is just kind of like the digital version of our real lives, which will be on the way to come and give us a different feel, a different experience, which is like, kind of like the 3D and 2D, right? experience. Thank you so much for the explanation. I think it gives a lot of sense and people can put it into context now. And about the most interesting thing that you have seen, because I get so excited when I talk to people who are very close to this technology, because it's just amazing and interesting. I'm like a kid in a game shop, or I don't know. So yeah, like what is the most interesting and shocking technology or something gadget that you just have seen, so that people know that, okay, it's already happening, it's already here? Because most probably we just see it in all those movies and the fictions and the sci-fis, but some of them are already existing, right?
They are. I mean, I think the biggest development from while this could change the world perspective, is decentralized autonomous organizations, and they're called DAOs. And essentially, they are organizations that are built using blockchain technology to be able to remove a lot of the middle management that's required in running a business. So you can do things like proof of stake. You can essentially have people collaborate in a community field, in a digital community, to organize and collectively create things. And I think conceptually that really changes the dynamic of the world, because one of the principles of our Web3 stuff is it's not just built on trust. Up until this point, we've always had to trust people. We trust an organization. We have to trust individuals as part of that. But with something like blockchain, where everybody can view it, but it's still very difficult it's almost impossible to be able to hack or anything like that. You build something based on truth rather than trust. And these organizations are fundamentally underpinned by truth. So I think that's from a Web3 perspective, one of the big ones. From my perspective, from a VR aspect, is really being able to change somebody's reality based on preferences rather than ability, to allow them to be able to participate. So going back to my example of neurodivergencies being able to change that environment, it shouldn't matter whether you're neurodivergent or not. What should happen is you should be able to go into that space and put a slider to be able to go, hey, this is how I want to perceive this space, and choose that based on your own preferences, because it doesn't matter. We shouldn't just design things based on somebody's ability. We should design it based on what they prefer. And then actually we're much more inclusive anyway, because everybody can benefit from these adjustments. Everybody can benefit from choosing an environment that works best for them. So I really like that aspect, and the idea that you could have, two or more people in a single space that are perceiving the environment differently but still able to interact. That's a really special idea, because that can really change how we build and feel comfortable and engage in learning with each other.
I think this is also something that reminds me on not deciding on other people's behalf what's best for them, but letting people, whomever they are, just to decide for themselves in what they want to be. And Metaverse and Web3 and all these digital environments can really accelerate this process of inclusion of people who were out until today. They were out of the workforce, because we always think about, all right, so many people will be replaced by robots, the AI will destroy everyone, and so on. So, but what about all the people, all those cultures, all those continents and communities and countries that couldn't participate until today because they were excluded? And this is a very, very important point here that you're touching, Jamie, I think.
100%. One of the important factors of this technology and making it equitable is there should be no reason that somebody who is in the developing world that we can get a VR headset to that has internet connection couldn't participate in an educational environment that's, with the best of the world, because we can transport them to that space. We can give them that environment to be able to work with, and in a way that they are still able to participate and be able to engage. And going back to kind of on that accessibility bit around, designing things around preference, because quite often what we do is we try to reasonably adjust people. We work on a medical model of disability and participation, which is we need to diagnose you with a problem and then we need to fix the problem. Whereas if we're looking from a much more from a social model perspective, we're looking at being able to go, hey, you tell us what you need, we can provide that for you. We don't need to do it as a reasonable adjustment, because the chances are, if you benefit from it, everybody could benefit from it. A great example of this is the remote control. The remote control was designed for people with mobility issues to change the channel on their television without having to move around to it, because televisions all used to be kind of switch at the box kind of thing. Now, we might have designed that with one person in mind, but actually everybody can benefit from being able to have that ability. The fact that you're wearing glasses at the moment is another great example of being able to socialize technology, because what has happened there is we've removed the barriers that have stopped you from participating, which is, not being able to see things, any stigma that's attached to it, not being able to fully engage within what's going on in the world because of different eyesight levels and stuff like that. But we've socialized that technology, so you're no longer at a disadvantage. You no longer face marginalization because your eyesight, it isn't as good in certain settings.
I love the example, and I think that's something that we all have to take into consideration for the future too, because it's just, we do what we can to survive and to be as best as we can, and if we need tools for that to survive and to be better, then we just have to get that tool, and we shouldn't be seen differently just because we are using those tools. And I think it's amazing, the tip that you gave. Whatever you're doing, Jamie, you are doing amazing things. So congratulations for that. Keep up this good energy. And I wish you all the success with all the ventures that you are in. I know that you are working just as hard as Sharad, and you are almost always online and working so hard on your purpose and your goals. So keep it going. And thank you so much for participating at the Empowerment Summit. And I think we are just looking forward to more collaboration in the future.
Very much look forward to it. Thank you for the invite, and good luck with the rest of the day.
Yeah, and before you totally disappear and I bring up Emma, also from the UK, then please tell us a little bit, where can people reach you?
Perfect. So my handle for most things is Jamie Beekoff Brett, all one word. So I'm on pretty much every social media. Joys of automation is I post on one thing and it posts to all of my social channels. So it looks like I have a marketing team when it's just me and my AI in the background being like, okay. So that's the best way to be able to find me. LinkedIn is probably where, there's most connections, most content and stuff like that. But I do try to do things for different age groups, different age ranges. So yeah, it's always a really useful bit to get involved, and if anyone's got any questions, you know how to reach me.
Thank you so much. It just reminded me, myself, and I, and then for you, it's me, myself, and my AI.
That is a title for a film. I could definitely see that one working out. Love it.
It's yours. Take it. Thank you so much, Jamie. Have an amazing day, and see you very, very soon at the Meta Shapers meetup.
See you soon.
Bye-bye. All right, switching speakers, but we don't switch countries. So now we are staying in the UK, and Emma is coming to share something different, but still regards digital transformation and sustainability, which is the topic of this weekend. So Emma, I will bring you up and then we start our conversation. I'm so happy to have you here. So let's see who is hiding in the backstage of the studio. Hi, Emma, how are you today?
Hi, Andrea. I'm really, really well. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Of course, I'm always looking for people who are changing the world, just like Sharad said, and you are one of them. And I'm so happy to have you in this studio. And I know in the UK, it's like afternoon time, right? We have like 8 hours of difference, and it's almost like, it's already 9 p.m. here. So you are one of my last speakers for today before the panel discussion.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And before we jump into your very specific and beautiful topic, introduce yourself a little bit so that the audience can get to know you better.
So hello, everyone. It's lovely to be here. My name's Emma, and I'm the founder of a company called Iloma. And the company vision is artisanal textiles and craft for a fairer future. Within the realms of the business, there are two aspects of it right now. There's consultancy, which is Aloma Consultancy, and I connect designers, brands, and retailers with artisans, especially located in remote parts of the world, and help them build artisanal and ethical supply chains. And I also have Aloma Design, which is my own brand, my own luxury artisanal lifestyle brand. And I am launching my first collection, co-creating with a female-led foundation in Indonesia called Toraja Mello. And our first collection launches next year.
There's some connection because from Southeast Asia, we are not so far away from Indonesia, and that's so nice. We have to visit them together.
Yes, for sure. They're amazing. The work they do is extremely important.
And I love the way how you show up, like all the artisan shirt and the patterns, and I just love it.
Thank you. Likewise, you look amazing. Yeah, no, I'm always flying the flag for artisan products. I love them so much.
So here you go. That's your topic: artisanal fashion, textiles, and craft for a fairer and more ethical world. And here we are touching already sustainability, which is the topic of the week. And we are also introducing next week's topic, which is about simply art and fashion. So I'm so happy that you are connecting my weeks and you're connecting the topics of the Global Empowerment Hub. Let's take this title first, because it's always so important to put things in context. So what does artisanal fashion mean for you? Let's start with that, because it can mean different things for different people.
Yeah, I think it's quite a spiritual, symbolic means of connecting with other cultures, other belief systems, other ways of working, certainly in the context of what I do. You know, we're moving into a different way of producing in the fashion industry, one that is fairer, and it really is about a movement towards equality. And so for me, connecting with artisans, especially in rural parts of the world, you bring in not just the diversity that we need to see in the world that shapes all of us, that really represents our beauty and our strength. So for me, it really is about bridging cultures, sharing stories and a greater understanding of each other. That is about that leading into that movement of equality and fairness that isn't represented at all in the world right now. And that's really, for me, what it means to be able to connect with artisans, to learn from them, because I think we can learn so much from artisans, and especially Indigenous communities, the way they live in a more harmonious way with the earth and the planet. I really think we need, it's a big piece of cake that's not just missing in the fashion industry, but just in terms of, globally right now, and the cultural landscapes that we live in, there's a huge disconnect, and being the bridge in between is just the most amazing experience. So it really is very special, and that there is a very symbolic, spiritual element to it too.
And I'm so happy that you are saying this, because we are at the digital transformation weekend combined with sustainability. But I'm always thinking, like, okay, what if we switch off internet and internet is not existing, and then who will survive? And I always say that the people who will survive, they are the indigenous people who still know how to catch a fish, or how to go to hunt, or how to see which plant is good for what, or can create their own clothes. So basically the power is much more than they know is in their hands. We just try to show that they are not, but they are the most powerful today. Right?
I completely agree. I think I love tech, and I'm here for tech completely. But if we also don't look backwards to move forwards, and what I mean by that, to put it into better context, is we need to go back to simplifying our lives and connecting. We are missing connection at the moment, and artisans allow us to be able to do that because they are deeply connected with
nature, right? I mean, how do you just say sustainability if you're not connected to nature?
Absolutely. And and I've been really fortunate to visit one of my artisan partners who is in Sulawesi in Indonesia, and just to get a deeper understanding of what their lives are like. And they are inherently they're within their own communities of ecosystems, and to be able to go back and simplify things, it then means for us, we can connect deeper with them, because if we can't connect emotionally with something or show empathy, then there's unlikely to be any change. So, leaning into their indigenous wisdom, their heritage craft forms, is a way that I choose to do that in everything that I do. And, we saw it's COP27 is going on right now. And there are, indigenous communities I've seen from the Amazon there that are sharing this wisdom and this spirituality and this harmonious way of living and being, that if we don't include that in the future, then we're missing something massive here. We miss that connection. And I'm totally here for tech, but we also need that wisdom. We need that heritage we need those, those kind of generational learnings to come through in everything we do as well.
I love what you say, and I think that's something that we have to learn, all have to learn, not just this generation, but luckily the next generation, I see that they are more, because they know that that's their future, they are starting to get closer to nature, and they are starting to understand why we need nature to survive, and that even whatever dreams they have will not be there if they don't change something. So they're very, very decisive and very determined on changing things in the future. So back to your work and back to the fairer economies and the ethical world. How is your project helping it? How is your project working? Tell us a little bit about your background of your purpose, of why you are focusing on artisanal fashion and how it can change the world.
I think fashion has the potential to solve a lot of the world's problems. My background before, because I lived in Malaysia for 14 years and I'm now back in the UK, but my background originally was fashion and textiles. I can't describe it any more than saying that it's something that's in my blood. So I studied weaving at university. I was a hand weaver. I then went on to work for a global fast fashion company. So I know exactly the problems that are embedded within the fashion industry. But you know, Andrea, living in Asia and living in Southeast Asia, traditional craft forms are an integral part of the countries there, and they're so important culturally. And so for me, when I set about establishing Iloma, which the seed was planted on my trip to Sengkang in Sulawesi in 2017, the intention was to co-create with an artisan community in that part of the world. But at the same time, I'd recently become a mother. And I think when you become a mother, for me, you start to look at the world and the problems, and you then start to reflect on your own values and what sort of world do I want my little girl to grow up in, And so I knew that when I wanted to set up Iloma, that it was going to be very much a purpose-driven business. And for me, being a complete textile geek, it was really important to bring in traditional textile craft forms into the business. And so I sought about looking for a partner, and I came across Toraja Mello, who, as I've said, are a female-led foundation in Indonesia. Their vision is the alleviation of systemic poverty through backstrap weaving. So when you partner with artisans, you're not just partnering with exceptionally skilled craftspeople, you're partnering with organizations that are on a mission to do something towards not just a fairer fashion industry, but a fairer society, a fairer world as well. And that when I saw Taraji Mello and the work they do, I immediately wrote to the founder. Did not think she would respond to me, but she did. And her email address ended mother, wife, dreamer. And I just was like, I immediately connected to her on an emotional level. And also the mission that they were doing, the fact that I could see from the work that they are doing, weaving has the capacity to change, to give agency back to women who are exceptionally skilled, to allow them fairer choices, fairer options for their lives, and also celebrate their talent and their skill and their artistry, because they're phenomenally skilled women. You know, they've spent years mastering and honing their craft, and it's a real privilege to be able to work with exceptionally skilled craftspeople and to work with a female-led foundation, because gender equality is also one of their core values of the organisation as well. So, you know, we have those shared values within what we do, and Diloma, I'm hoping, can help them reach new markets that can bridge different cultures, that can share different stories with other people, because I think if we don't, we're missing a trick. You know, something's going wrong somewhere in the world, you know, but there's so much joy to be had from what they do, and there's a really important cause and mission behind it as well. So by combining both, it's the biggest privilege for me to be able to work with them, to experience the textiles firsthand, because I've got some here in the UK right now, and they're exceptionally skilled women, and their skills deserve to be platformed as well. You know, we think of made in Italy. You know, there is an incorrect assumption that something that's made in Asia lacks in quality or skill, but just because a country whose country's costs might be lower than others doesn't mean we should view their skills as being cheap. And I firmly believe that, you know, we assume that made in Italy means exceptional craftsmanship and quality, but so does made in Indonesia, actually. And that's also something that needs to be talked about more and platformed more as well.
Especially that most of the brands in Europe, they are making their own crafts in Indonesia or in Asia. So the blues that you buy, maybe for a big company, maybe has been made in Indonesia. So it's just crazy.
You're so right. And you're so right. That's it. They might be, you know, you've got these big luxury fashion houses who they will work with exceptional craftspeople, like you said, in India, Indonesia, in other parts of Asia as well. The textile will be made by the craftsperson, transported to Italy, where it's assembled, and the label still says made in Italy, without a mention of the skill that's gone into actually putting that fabric together, whether it's embroidery or a print or a woven textile, you know. So, you know, there's all sorts of kind of problems. But actually, for the first time earlier this year, the head designer at Christian Dior dedicated her runway show to India's artisans, and it was a focus on celebrating India's artistry. And she said the excellence doesn't just belong in France or Italy, the excellence is also there as well, and that needs to be platformed and shared.
I think that's important. I mean, these things are important. I come from Hungary. We have all this embroidery and all these things. But when you see, it's all the craft that has been here for centuries, and all these communities and cultures and all around the world have that originally. Just whether it becomes a brand or whether it's has been here enough time so that it really becomes popular, and some people with money take it in front of everyone, doesn't make it less worthy if it's in the row when you are walking in Bali, or if you're going to Yogyakarta or anywhere else in Indonesia, right? And I think this is something, an amazing mission that you have, and it's an amazing thing to work on.
Thank you.
Alchan is saying that yes, Bangladesh famous for jeans,
Yes.
and the textile center in Indonesia is in Bandung. So
yes, yes. I think, you know, the beauty of Indonesia and Toraja Mello, they work with 1,100 women, indigenous women artisans and artisan communities across the whole of the country. I think Indonesia is just a phenomenal place for artistry and craftswomanship. I should say.
And just think about the batik. I mean, it's just amazing what they have. Yeah.
Incredible. It's incredible, and it's integral to, you know, the kind of culture of the country as well, which makes it even more beautiful.
So how do you make sure that that this change is really happening? Okay, you started to work with the Indonesian brand, you are empowering so many people, but how do you make sure that it's always increasing, and you have more people to see them? So what's the process that you are using in leveraging and helping them to grow?
I think, you know, you can't start off anything perfectly, but I think if you have a mindset of continuous improvement and you're open about where you are, where you want to be, then people appreciate that. And I'm not just talking about like the artisan partners, but I'm also talking about consumers as well, or designers and brands. You know, people appreciate someone that is honest. You build trust by doing so. And the essence of what we're talking about here as well is relationships. And when you develop those really important, really trusting relationships with your partners, whoever they may be, it's just going to benefit everyone, because you build relationships that are based on trust. If you have an open forum for communication, then people will be open about the problems they're facing, the challenges that we have in the industry, to make sure that we do have that positive, meaningful impact. You know, one of the things that I really like about Toraja Mello, and I share, is that they do an impact report. And it's not possible for every brand to do that when you start small, because it's a big challenge putting a report together, and it can be costly as well. But Toraja Mello are big enough now to be able to do that. And so when you do an impact report, it actually gives you, it's a measure of the work you do versus the outcome. And you can see through Toraja Mello's work the fact that their communities have grown. They have multiple streams of income coming into the weaving communities, because they do, within the Toraja Mello Foundation, their business model does different things. So they have their own slow fashion model. They collaborate with others like me. And they also consult on things like the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So they measure their impact through each of those pillars. And the report, you know, says, it specifically indicates the increase in the salaries that the weavers are receiving, an increase in their income. You know that, you know, the weaving communities there, they don't have to migrate to other countries for work. Therefore, their sense of agency is restored to them, because actually they don't have to leave their families behind and go and work as a domestic helper in other parts of Asia or the Middle East, or, you know, wherever it is. And so you know that when that's happening, the impact is real, and the work they're doing and the mission they're on is being achieved, which is phenomenal.
And this is important because you have lived here and I'm living here for 6 years now. We all have seen families like torn apart because some people, some fathers, some mothers are working so far away from their own families just to send the money back, and not even going back for years to see their families. And we just cannot really imagine it. I mean, ever since I moved here, I'm like not complaining anymore about anything, because it just gives a different perspective of life and how people are still happy and still smiling and still kind to each other after living in all these circumstances. So it really gives a power, and you start to see these projects and these impact entrepreneurs, like you mentioned, like yourself, that it really makes a difference in people's life, that they don't have to leave their own family.
And that's really important, I think, you know. And I'm someone that has lived in Malaysia, and I you know, I was very fortunate to be able to have domestic helpers as well. And actually, it really was until I set up and established Iloma that, and visiting, you know, I visited Toraja in Sulawesi to meet Toraja Mello, to see the work that they do within the communities there. It really wasn't until I met some of the weavers who lived in Malaysia but had been able to return that actually, that the real impact of what they do, I really felt it, because I'm on the other side of that coin as well. I was a woman that employed a domestic helper, you know, and I just didn't really know how to approach it, and talking about it was a challenge. But my moment of discomfort is a world away from someone else's lived experience. And so for me, having these conversations about it is a really important part of opening us all up to the possibilities of change and positive change through the work, hopefully the work that I'm doing through Iloma.
And it's important that it's the original organization is coming, that you're collaborating with, is coming from the area, coming from Indonesia. So that means that you are enabling the people there while they are doing it themselves. So it's not like someone coming telling what to do, but it's really letting the internal community find out solutions. And then you just come as a supporter and learning about the culture and learning about their heritage. And then you are practically bringing their heritage to Europe and helping them to spread the news and empowering the community, right?
I hope so. I hope I can support them and the work they do. You know, it's so important on so many different levels, and I take the work I do very seriously. And I think, like you said, you learn so much, not just about yourself through this experience, but about others as well. And only through that learning experience do you know what respectful co-creation and what respectful artisanal production is, you know. And it's a journey that I'll continue to go on and grow. And it's been, you know, eye-opening, it's been challenging, but it's also been very positive and uplifting as well.
Well, I wish you all the success and more to come, and empower more people along the way. Thank you so much for being here and for telling your story, and just for showing up and empowering us by telling the story and showing the way. And before we leave the studio, because I have to switch to another link, tell us a little bit more, where can people reach you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Emma Bottomley, or you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Iloma_design and also Iloma_consultancy. So they're my main channels. That's where you can find me.
Thank you so much, Emma. I wish you a beautiful day in the UK, and then see you very soon. We will catch up and we will talk more about this. And don't forget to let me know when you're coming into Southeast Asia so that we can meet in person.
For sure. And Andrea, thank you so much for giving me this space. I'm really grateful to you. This is wonderful.
Well, thank you for coming and joining in. Thank you so much. Bye,
Have a
Emma.
lovely evening. Take care. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.